All right, so we're gonna install the TurboXS blow-off valve on the 2019 Veloster N. All right, here's a quick look at the valve before we install it. It's a nice looking piece. To get started, the tools you'll need will be 10 mil with an extension. That's about a 6-inch extension, and a long 10 mil. This is what we're gonna use. So we're gonna use a 5mm hex head, or what we call a ball nose hex head, that feature there. And a set of pliers. So pretty simple. That should be all we need to get this installed. First thing we want to do is take off the factory airbox, and that'll be the 10 mil bolt here, and there's 3 around. So I'll show you those. All right, so the 10 mil bolt here, there's one there. One here, there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 10 mil bolts. We'll take care of those. It's all right. We'll take out those bolts. So there we go. You use the 10 mil that I first was talking about. Pull this one off here too. And you'll pull that back. As you can see, I just pulled that back, that side. Then get these out. All right, so. And it's pretty straightforward. Nothing needs to be removed from here. You just need to pull the box straight on out. So, that pulled up. Pull this piece out the way. There you go. The whole air box comes out. There you go. A little piece. All right, and what that will expose is the factory bypass valve, which is here. All right, so you can see the factory bypass valve here. You got 2 10 mil bolts on each side and a clamp. So first thing you do is take the clamp and move that. Move that off. So up and out of the way. You take your 10 mil. Loosen it up. Then you go ahead and pull out the bolts. So I like to pull the 10 mil bolts out, get them out of the way. On the bottom, you can see there's a little vacuum hose right there. Go ahead and pull that off. There's a little clamp. You remove the clamp off, pull the vacuum hose out. Now you can pull the whole valve up and pull that hose off here. So you'll kind of get it to that point and pull the whole thing out. So the only thing you'll want to reuse is this O-ring here. So I'll show you where that goes. So that O-ring, So you can see there's the factory piece on the bottom and the TurboXS part. So you're going to take this O-ring and put it in the bottom side there. So there's the O-ring. That's the bottom side on the TurboXS valve. All right, let's put the TurboXS valve side by side, the factory valve. So you can see there, difference between the two. This is a nice anodized aluminum part versus the plastic bypass valve. The TurboXS valve has slots in the back. That's where the air is going to come out on the valve. And on the front, it has the port to still recirculate some of the air. It's a nice solid piece. All right, the TurboXS valve comes with the valve itself, which you can see here. Then you have the vacuum hose and the coupler to adapt the factory hose to the TurboXS sized vacuum port on the top of the blow-up valve, and 4 M6 bolts to mount it to the hard pipe. So the first thing you do, you're gonna kind of line it up. This is how it lines up when you install. So you start pre-threading the bolts, make it a little bit easier, hold the valve in place for you. You can even move that out of the way if you want. Yeah, so now you can see. All right. So again, you're using that 5mm that I told you about. So you get everything snug down. So you pull that line back up, you can see here, and I slide the hose supplied by TurboXS. Like that. You pull your little clamp back over it, and you slide it onto the fitting there. You should be able to see that. Yep. And so I'll just move it down, tuck it out of the way. Then you put the factory recirc tube back on here. There's that. Usually slide it on pretty close by hand. Then from there, what I like to do, grab the clamp. I'm gonna move this one out of the way a little bit like that. So now you got the clamp back on. Just make sure everything's tight. So the cap's tight, the 10 mil on the top is tight. Make sure that's tight as well. All right. The valve comes pre-adjusted from TurboXS, so you don't need to adjust the cap or the spring or anything. Just make sure the cap is tight, the bolts are tight, and everything should work the way it should. All right, the last step will be to put the factory airbox back in place. Now there's 2 holes here. You want to line those up like that. Now those holes are lined up, your 3 holes around the outside are lined. You can put your intake back on. So, we'll start back with our 10 mils. So, kind of get that going again. All right. Out of the way. So then, all right. Not too tight, that's on plastic. So then just make sure your clips here are all clipped. Mine popped off as I was pulling it off. But that's it. That was pretty much the install of the factory, from factory blow-off valve to the TurboXS hybrid blow-off valve for the 2019 Veloster N. All right, now that we've done that, the one thing we need to do is basically test it. Make sure it sounds the way we want it to sound.